Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Embrace Life. This is Regina Harrell, your motivational strategist, and today I have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, ma'am?
Yes. Hi, Regina. I am Kimberly Bell. I am an author, first-time author of my first memoir, My Baby, and an inspirational speaker that I just love to travel all over the world, speaking and inspiring people. And I'm a mother of 4 adult children, 1 minor. I still work in the public sector as my career as a case manager, support manager, then counseling and medical assistant treatment program. So I am just blessed because I'm blessed to be able to serve and continue to serve throughout everything that I desire to do. So I'm very passionate. Yes.
That's awesome. And you guys, she actually reached out to me. And you know how sometimes you be going through all these people that actually try to reach out to you and come to find out they're scam artists. So I had to make sure she was real, y'all.
And you did.
And when we did, you know, the communication piece, everything, it was like just connecting. So we are spiritually connected. So Ms. Kimberly, the topic that we're doing today is called Bruised Not Broken. I have a story to tell.
Yes.
And from the conversation that you and I had, I would like for you to tell your testimony to the people, if you don't mind.
Sure. So my testimony is pretty much of being able to accept and embrace. I ended up, as I was saying before, being able to be guided and write my memoir, which was my journey from the time I was 5, well, up until I was 5 until presently of last year. And as each chapter, I was able to break this certain topic that had to be in my spirit, which was embrace, accept and embrace it all, because I had to truly get to the foundation of my rejection, my abandonment issues, my hurt, my self-esteem, my self-worth. All of those things I had to accept that did happen, and that my foundation was broken, and that my upbringing, as far as my foundation being broken from as a child, being able to experience the first protectors, the first people that come into your life, abandon you. You feel that there's something that you've done and feel responsible for what those people had done. So I had to accept that, hey, Regina, it wasn't normal. But for years, I felt this guilt that it was in a delusion that what happened in my life was normal, because I didn't know anything, any other pattern, any other life. But I had to go back and accept that wasn't normal. That was not a normal situation that I was in, nor should I be guilty for it, nor should I be shameful for it, but to embrace that what wasn't normal, what was broken, what was wrong, did not have to stay that way.
Right. And see, and I was like, I like what you have in the background where it said accept and embrace it all.
Yes.
Because when I first came up with embrace, embrace life, you know, it was teaching me a whole lot of stuff, because, you know, we all go through a lot of ups and downs, and people, you know, like you said, rejection, and pretty much telling, us that we're not worth, what we saying that we are. But at the same token, I learned to embrace life and all that comes with it, because all good don't come with it.
Yes.
You got to embrace that bad too.
Yes.
And had it not been for that bad, then we wouldn't be where we are right now, because we needed that push.
Right. And we wouldn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Had I never knew hurt or the difference of mental abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, how would I know or balance and understand the good, the healthy relationships, the loving myself, the finding my self-worth? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And and a lot of times, and like you said, that you're a mother as well, so you had children who actually looked at you as a role model. So a lot of times when we go through these things, they look at us as, okay, well, I saw mama go through it, and and I saw how she handled it. So I think it's more of the response that we take, because a lot of people would say, man, I was dealt a bad hand. It's all in how you play it. I remember when I was younger, I used to play spades with my grandma and them. And
you was a card player?
Man, listen, I can't even tell you nothing about it right now, to be honest. But it crazy
did you forget?
Yes, because they don't play the same. They play and then they play with the kitty.
Okay.
What they doing now?
Okay.
But I used to say I had four, I had, four. And each time I always had more than four. So my grandma used to say, okay, listen now, you're limiting yourself. You're not believing in your hand. It's all in how you play it. Because whatever you have, the next person might not have it, but your partner will. So stop limiting us.
Isn't it something? Teaching you a lesson through cards. Yeah. Yep. Wow.
Yep. Wow. So I just had to learn in life, not to limit God. And, like you said, you've been through some stuff, because, we all have been through things, but in all, we had to trust God through it, because he has given us that strength, but everybody can't go through what we go through.
Right. And everybody has a specific journey that they have to go through. And that's why I inspire them. Just like you had just said a key word about limit. I just said to my oldest daughter, now this is an oldest daughter that is a child, my first child, a child having a child. I was 15 years old, and I turned 16 August 13th, and she was born July 31st. So we had just went out, and make a long story short, but she had her first child was about 8 years ago. She's graduated from high school, out of the 4 adult children, she first graduated, finished college. Last year we went to her celebration of her graduation for a master's. And she's now working on her clinicals. And I pretty much said that word what you just said, Regina. I said, from the time I was limited at 15, but she surely was limited when she came out of me, because everybody's looking at this 15-year-old child having a child, that's the reality. I call a space baby. Now you're talking about space, but I call the truth. I'm just as transparent as it is. And I found this truth, and I found this courage through going through a lot of stuff. And like I said, that memoir put the icing on the cake. But anyway, I told her, I said, you were limited as I was limited, but we serve a limitless God.
That part.
Look at you now. At you now. And I want you to keep relying on that limitless God, because man will limit us. I was misdiagnosed in the 70s of mild retardation. Wow. I was in resource for 6 years, limited.
Wow.
And in the 70s, they didn't have those testings, because what really was the issue was PTSD. And I had went from, as I'm still educating myself, trauma from trauma to trauma. I mean, I couldn't get a break.
Oh, I understand. I understand completely.
Lord. From 5 to the traumatic fight, the last fight that I witnessed my mother and father and me and my sibling having, and I just seen the blood coming from her face. And this was one of the worst physical fight that I had ever witnessed. And being around my mother and father, being around them to bam, that night, not even a whole week could go by, but that night I was separated from them, separated from everybody. I was separated from my mama. I was separated from my daddy. I was separated from my sister and dropped off to these people at 5 that I'd never stayed over to their house before and said, I'll come back and get you. He never did.
Wow.
So it was trauma upon trauma. And then, I'm trying to adjust as a little child. So they, enrolled me in school. But back then in the 70s, there wasn't really no questions asked. There was no resources or service. You had to really be embracing that. And they were very spiritual. They were very older. And they were more in that mentality of prayer changes things. That's all we're going to do is love this child and pray. Fast and pray,
Wow.
So when I got into the educational era, right in the testing in first grade, they put me right in the resource. I had read a book every year, the same book, and had my resource educator. And the test said I would never read or write effectively. I hold 2 degrees. Hold 2 degrees. And I really was going through PTSD if they would have tested it right. And I couldn't retain. It was my memory. I had shut down so much, but still living and still trying to adjust and trying to deal with, the transition that it was the blockage, and still as this day, like even in college, I know that there is some boundaries, because I wouldn't say limit, because I don't limit myself. I serve a limitless God. There are some boundaries that I know in my intellectual, I have to work harder. I'm not a good test taker. Sometimes, I get anxious and I have to pray and I have to get myself together, or, talk to my therapist, or get a good night's sleep, and, just rely on my determination to get what I want. But I never let that define what let that deter me from getting what I want. Right. But, and the same thing, and the same token, I accept. We're going back to this accept and embrace. I accept that I got to put the work in. I got to put extra work in than one of my adult girls. Now, one of my adult girls, I said, "Why didn't I get a mind like you? You wouldn't tell me nothing." Right, exactly. No, right. But intellectual, I know I got to put the work in. When I put the work in, because I learned very differently, I put the work in, then I do my work without faith is dead. Then I rely on God, and I get it done. Whatever I'm set out to get. And so I know that even with the intellectual little boundaries that I have, I know that if I had felt in the mentality of accepting what man and society would say about me, I wouldn't be speaking to you today.
Wow. And see,
with a sound mind, let me add that.
Right. and you know what the sad part is? It's a lot of people who actually going through that, but because they're not educated on certain stuff, they just roll with it. What they call fall through the cracks.
Yes.
They always do that no child left behind type of thing.
Right.
But they still treat it different at the end of the day.
Right.
But when you put them in that element, you see a whole total different person. But like you said, when you are misdiagnosed, you have to actually get around people who actually is educated in that field.
Right.
Because if they're not, they will misdiagnose you just like that, just to get
exactly. Right.
So with this Bruised Not Broken, a lot of times, when I speak about being bruised, not broken, majority of people ask me, what you mean by that? And what I'm saying is, okay, that means we have went through some trauma, like you said.
Right.
And some of the trauma we actually blocked out. We don't even have the mind to even know that we're blocking out stuff.
Right.
But we block out certain traumas. And even though we go through all these stuff, we come out with scars. And all these scars have stories that we could tell about these scars. This is how I got the scar. But at the end of the day, even though we may be scarred up or scratched up or bruised up, God still can use us.
Exactly.
Because he uses us through our experiences to actually bring on other people. Because people think you have to be like highly educated, you have to be like a doctor or whatever, just to have conversation stuff with people. But here's my thing. You can't ask a person wearing a 3-piece suit to go to a homeless person and minister.
Right.
Because when you do, the homeless person gonna look at them like, okay, so what can they tell me? Because they got it together.
Right.
They don't know what
Right.
it feel like to be hungry. They don't know what it feel like, but if you take a person, like you and I, we can actually go to them because we come to them as they are.
Right.
They don't have to
Right.
come into the church to receive. We come to them as they are.
Right.
Because God said, seek outside the kingdom.
Yes.
So once we go to them and we let them know, hey, I've been where you've been,
Right.
things happen to me and this, because when I came up with the book, Don't Break Down, Break Through, when God gave me that title, honey, I won't going through nothing. I felt like I won't go through nothing, God. So why you giving me this? I can't talk about this, I can't write about it, but then life happened. Invest in your lifestyle today with Embrace Magazine. It's a self-care magazine that caters to your physical, mental, spiritual, and financial lifestyle. It features relationship building, self-care tips, style, and much more. Embrace Magazine encourages you to evolve, emerge, and empower. Get your copy today. For more information, contact Regina Harrell at 252-258-3815 or subscribe at embracemag@wixsite.com/my-site. Invest in yourself. You are worth it. Because you are the first partaker of your ministry.
Yes. Yes.
And in order to minister, you have to go through.
Right.
So once going through all that, I was able to understand this is why this is happening.
Right.
To me, because it's not even about me. It's bigger than me.
Right.
So when you say embrace it all, that's what it's all about.
Right. Right.
The good
and like you said, it starts with us.
It sure does.
It starts with us. I want the listeners to know I live, just because you see this face and me smiling, I'm telling you, the smile has a story. And the smile is running off of fumes, where my self-esteem was so low at one time, where I was compared by my features, by my adopted parents. And it was my mother that brought out to let an 11-year-old child know, you have a nigger nose. You have thick lips. You don't look like us, but we love you. But at 11-year-old, in that mind, I started resenting. I started hating. But here's where the good came in. I touched my father's heart, the one that was the balance, and in the home, that could feel in my spirit that something wasn't right. And he pulled me aside not too long after she said that, because he knew that something was going on in me internally. And he said, Kimmy, he said, and that's why the book is titled that, because that's what he called me. Right. He said, Kimmy, he said, come here. He said, listen to your dear old dad. He said, I want you to do something. He said, I see you not smiling. But he didn't go back and what she had said, because he was there, what she had said. And it wasn't to intentionally hurt me. It was the way they were raised. But the way she had said, what, as far as comparing, I resented my look. Here, I knew my mother and father from up until 5. I loved them. I knew I looked a lot like this brown-skinned, beautiful woman that seemed like she never did love me. But anyway, with the features and everything, he said, Kimmy, he said, I want you to do something. He said, I see you're not smiling. He said, the world needs your smile. Never forgot that. So this is why I'm saying to the listeners, that, but it's a process. I live every day this process of being better, of understanding. It takes me first in the very beginning, when I wake up, choosing me and my relationship and my walk with God to direct me, to guide me, to help me, to strengthen me throughout that day. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what? I'm so glad that you even brought that up, because Kimberly, people out here do need your gift. They do need. You can't just sit on your hands and do nothing. They need your gift, because see, what I found out the older that I was getting was, when we sit on our gift, we don't know that we are somebody's lifeline.
Right.
Because what we hold inside is what's going to heal them.
Yes.
We're holding in their healing, and I don't want to be responsible for that. So I want to be able to, do what God called me to do.
Right.
What man say about me, I don't care about that. The only thing I care about is that judgment up there. That's
right. And we all have a gift. We all have a purpose. And this is why I'm so passionate to remind women, especially in general, to fulfill your gift, fulfill your purpose. Don't be ashamed of your story. You know, don't feel guilty of your story. Your story is your story. Don't be ashamed of your truth, you know, because I had to get past that. I had to get this. And look, I hyped up the Leos. You know, this is my birthday month, Regina.
Hey, happy birthday.
So, right, this is my birthday month. Yes, yes. So I goes off on the whole month of August, but the actual magnificent day is the 13th.
Hey, somebody that 13. Right. But
so I you know, I say, you know, even with that, I've knew a lot of things in my life was courageous. And even until, you know, the most recently, choosing no more toxic relationships, choosing to break that cycle, choosing to break generational curses, choosing to share my truth like I did on Facebook not too long ago about a child having a child. It didn't matter what anybody thought, but it's the truth. It's my truth. And just to inspire and let people know what God can do. In those situations, he has the first and he has the final say. Now, she has her own story of her going through, which is quite different from my story, because I've always been there. But she still have an individual story, just like just like the listeners, all of them have an individual stories. And I'm just here very passionate to let them know, you know, share your truth. Share your truth. And one thing that they really also helped me, I had to embrace, like we're going back to embrace, I had to embrace to understand I need support. I have a right and a responsibility to build my support system. I have a right and ability and a choice to get mental health services when I need it. And I do. Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
And it's nothing wrong with it. Exactly.
So, because it's all about healing. It's all about self-care. Because what we find ourselves doing is we take care of everybody else.
Right.
But when it comes to us, we always down at the bottom of the you know, totem pole. But what we fail to realize is if, you know, we don't take care of ourselves, we can't help nobody. We can't. We have to take care of our spiritual mindset. Our mental mindset. We have to take care of our bodies physically, you know. We have to do those things. Because we would be no good to nobody if we don't.
And I got tired of, I seen seasons in my life I was just living. I seen seasons myself, I felt like I was just existing. Then I seen seasons of my life I was just growing, but I found to accept that these seasons of my life was for a reason. And now I have a choice and ability to say, okay, now that I'm in this season of my life, what do I want? I said, I want to thrive. I want to thrive. I have the option. I have the ability to choose. At one time, I didn't think that I even had the ability to choose, but choosing is so powerful. It is so powerful when you can choose. And I choose every day. And I tell, you know, I inspire and be very passionate about, at one time I had to choose my peace and then choose to keep this peace.
Right. You know? Right. And see, it all, and when you talk about the choices, it all goes back to the tree. To the tree of life, when God was telling them not to touch that fruit. The choice was either you're gonna listen to me
or you're not.
Or you're not. So the choices started right there.
And then he showed choices and consequences go hand in hand.
Yes.
So whatever you choose, understand. Whatever you choose, there is going to be consequences on any choice that you make. You choose to stay in the bed all day, there's going to be consequences on that choice that you make, and that little one factor of choosing to stay in that bed all day.
And the great thing is, through it all, he loved them anyway.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
He could have said,
it still was with them. It still was with them.
Gonna wipe them out
exactly. And still was with
them.
Still with them, because his word said, I would never leave you nor forsake you. And that's how he is with us all. It's us. the free will, and I'm, I'm so glad that he gave us that, because we can communicate and commune with each other with this free will, and we
Right.
need it. Yes. Yeah.
Right. But real quick, let everybody know how to purchase your book and
Sure.
where to go.
Okay, so I'm on Goodreads and I'm on Amazon, and it's The Epitome of Kimmy, and it's such a wonderful read. I just inspire anyone that wants to. It's a very transparent story. It's my truth. It's my story, and I just know that if you have ever experienced wanting to give up and give in, or feeling that you didn't matter in this life, that this is a book that you would want to read. And if you knew anybody that has been into that, this is a book you would want to give them. And I also have a beautiful website that you can look at the cover of the book. You can see my family. It's www.kimberlyannbell.com, and you'll see the can be able to listen to different lives and podcasts as I was on. Invite me to speak, because I love to travel. I'll come, no problem at all. But it's just a message that, like I said, if my adopted dad used to share a lot of wisdom and words to me, and I miss him so much, even now more than ever, with my adopted mother passing away this year. But he only had a 3rd grade education, Regina, and he would say, and I'm mindful to share this, but because this placed a burden on my heart, because I used to hear him say this in such honor and such such responsibility for his life, that he said, Kimmy, if your dear old dad could just help one body, one person, then I know that my living's not in vain. And it was a standing room only when he passed away. 3rd grade education, this man was so wise. And so that's what I had kept in mind when I wrote the book and I released it, and it freed me. But that if one person could be freed mentally or spiritually, and that in my inspiration, in my story, then I know that my going through that journey and going through all the things that balance me out to be the Kim that I am now is not in vain. So I just encourage it. Yeah.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed you today and everything. It's exciting to finally get to
yes, likewise.
So likewise. Thank you so much for being,
thank you, beautiful. Well, thank you. Kudos to you for having this platform that I'm able to, woo! Thank you, Lord.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And listen, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have more of these.
Right.
Right. Coming soon. We're gonna have more of these chats and stuff that
sure.
So you guys can get to know who Miss Kimberly is, and how life and stuff is going. And thank y'all so much for tuning in to Embrace Life. And how
thank you, guys.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
And I'm out, y'all.
Get a copy today of The Epitome of Kimmy, Accept and Embrace It All by Miss Kimberly Ann Bell. She is one of my special guests, and her book, you may find it on Goodreads, Amazon, or even contact her at KimberlyAnnBell.com. This book is a memoir of how she overcame a life of abandonment, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and other hurdles that she had to go through in her journey. Get your copy today.